John Pruitt is the rare broadcast journalist to have worked for only two stations in the same city his entire career, spanning 46 years. He began without any journalism education in 1964.
And when I graduated from Davidson with a history degree, not knowing what I really wanted to do, I felt I could write. So I went in search of a newspaper job. I was not successful in getting the newspaper job, but a contact at the newspaper knew someone at WSB and sent me over for an interview with Ray Moore, the news director, and he hired me. And it wasn't until I really began doing the job that I fell in love with the job and felt like I'd found a career that I could love.
The history major found himself on the first week in his new job confronted with a remarkable event, changing his city and his nation. A civil rights riot.
Violence broke out when four young black people tried to come into that rally, and they were beaten by this mob, and I was able to get some pictures of that with my little silent camera, and that story went coast to coast on the network that evening. I was horrified by what I had seen. I thought I was seeing four young people being murdered. I was exhilarated by the fact that my camera had been the instrument of bringing that story to hundreds of thousands of people.
Another time Pruitt made national news was covering the Burt Lance scandal during the Carter presidency.
Everyone wanted the Burt Lance interview, and all of my competitors in Atlanta wanted that interview, and I was able to get the interview. Nobody else got the interview. And it ended up on NBC because they attributed me and Channel 2, and it was a huge coup.
In addition to his reporting, Pruitt may be best known for his role as anchor, especially during breaking news coverage.
At a courtroom shooting, a home invasion, when we had the Olympics and the bomb going off, John just he's so even keel and he's so smooth. He keeps the viewer from racing off and getting emotionally charged when they need not.
He doesn't give to hyperbole, you know. I mean, he's not the guy who's going to be sensational about it and take things out of context and blow things up beyond proportion.
He tells the truth, and he's honest, and he's fair, and he's objective, but he also has that calming presence that's so important when you occupy a position like John has occupied.
He knows the local area, and when we did late breaking news, nobody, I think, was as good as him as handling live shots on air because, again, of his institutional knowledge of the area.
Pruitt has been a respected colleague in the Channel 2 and Channel 11 newsrooms.
You knew that when you were in the newsroom with John, whether he was actually looking over your shoulder, whether he was actually reading your copy or not, you knew that you'd better strive to meet those standards because there would be changes before it hit the air if you didn't. And I would say in terms of influence and impact, it was John's incredibly high journalistic standards that probably shaped everybody who worked with him.
He doesn't have a jealous bone in his body, and he welcomed me. A lot of people didn't want me to have the job in-house because they felt they should have had it. And then there were people outside who didn't want me to have the job because they weren't ready to see a woman or a person of color on the set with men. Back then, every TV station had only white males doing the 6 o'clock news because that's the way it was. Channel 2, as usual, took the step to say it can't be this way. But it wouldn't have worked if John Pruitt hadn't been the generous person he is. He could have been the anchor man, but instead he was a man who was well anchored in himself.
John Pruitt, reporter and anchor for WXIA and WSB TV for 46 years.